The first symptom that sent me to a doctor was numbness on my left side of my body. Meanwhile, I was also having emotional symptoms as well. And those included kind of feelings of jealousy. I had lethargy, problems concentrating. I would show up to work kind of listless and uninspired. And again, the numbness and these kind of these emotional feelings, I didn't connect until much later. So I would say that the first initial symptoms, which included the numbness and this kind of jealousy and this bedbug obsession, these kind of things, that started in February of 2009, and I was hospitalized after my first seizure on March. I think I had my first seizure on March 13th of 2009. So there was kind of a prodromal phase of about a month. The disease progressed from feelings of, again, being depressed and down and tired, and almost like flu-like symptoms. And in fact, I went to a doctor who did an MRI, and he found enlarged lymph nodes in my spine. So his thoughts were that it was mono. So I looked a lot like I had mono. But from there, my emotional side of the symptoms started to emerge that were very unsettling. So I had mood swings. I had real extreme insomnia. I've had loss of appetite, and my boyfriend started noticing I started doing things like lip smacking, like smacking my lips a lot, and then that led up to a night where I had my first seizure. And from that moment on, things get very hazy. I don't remember. I remember my hallucinations, but beyond that, I don't really remember much. And to write my book, I actually had to rely on other people to put it together. I did. I remember I work as a journalist, and I was doing an interview with John Walsh from America's Most Wanted. And I remember he was talking to me, and I could understand what he was saying, but I couldn't write down what he was saying. So I could hear it, understand it, but I couldn't translate it into words. And it was very frustrating. I also had experiences when, on the way to that interview, I had an experience like what I would later learn was Alice in Wonderland effect, where the walls were caving in and the ceiling was stretching up high. So, and they were kind of contracting and expanding almost as if breathing around me. And I also had photophobia. I was walking through Times Square, and the colors were so bright that they almost made me want to throw up. And then again, the mood swings were extreme. I mean, there were seconds between hysterically crying and feeling like the happiest I've ever felt in my life. But prior to my first seizure, the day before, when this kind of mood swings were happening, my speech got extremely quick. So I already talked very fast, but I was talking really a mile a minute. I mean, just nonstop talking. After my first seizure, my speech slowed down and continued to slow down until I went to the catatonic stage, and I started to perseverate. I would repeat myself over and over and over again, and I'd repeat myself over the same things over and over again, and that happened as the seizures progressed. Yes, when I was in the hospital for about probably the second or third week in the hospital, I stopped really using language. I would grunt, and moan, maybe say a few, one-syllable words, but I really wasn't using language in any real way. I wasn't stringing together sentences anymore, and at that point, I really couldn't write either. So I had lost my ability to read and write, and I was only using kind of very simple phrases at that point. The first diagnosis was mono, because the enlarged lymph nodes in my spine, the one-sided numbness. The second diagnosis I received was bipolar disorder. The third diagnosis I received was alcohol withdrawal. Then when I was hospitalized, the prevailing diagnosis was post-ictal psychosis, and if it wasn't post-ictal psychosis, the belief was that it was bipolar 1. As I continued to stay in the hospital without any seizures, but my psychosis got worse and edged towards catatonia, the thought was that I was suffering from schizoaffective disorder. So as you can see, it really ran the gamut of many different types of diagnoses during the time that I was sick.